Good evening, everyone. Um, I'm sure you are aware and have already seen the shocking scenes that we seem to keep seeing take place all over the world, not just in America, but I'm referring to one Mr. Charlie Kirk, in my eyes, a Christian martyr, one of our own. And I say one of our own, and although he is from America, which is across the pond from us in the United Kingdom, he's a conservative, a Christian, a bastion for freedom of speech, and believed in the same morals and values as we do here on the, if you would like to say, the centre right, and right side of politics. He was a proud Republican, a great orator, and as humble of a man he was, would sit outside university campuses and challenge any university student to a debate. It is my belief he had over 5 million followers on TikTok, around 3 or 4 million followers on YouTube, well known within the Republican Party, a very smart man, an idol for not just American men, but British men or Western men. So smart, full of wisdom, full of character, said it how it was. There were no grey areas with Charlie. And yet again, because he had an opposing view to the nasty, vile, vermin, evil political left, he lost his life. He got shot at. Just exactly like they tried doing with Donald Trump and many others too. In fact, twice with Donald Trump, and now another man, Charlie Kirk. Rest in peace. Now, Charlie doesn't leave this earth. I do not believe. He leaves not just he doesn't just go. He doesn't disappear. It's not like that. We have to remember that Charlie leaves behind a legacy for us to follow and for us to remember. Some of the debates that this man has had that have been caught on video, that have been viral because he was an internet sensation, they will remain on social media for a very long time. And I hope and I pray that with the life of Charlie Kirk and with how he was, how he stood and what he stood for, that people in the future can look up to him and look to him and look to him as a man that you should be like. He is certainly one that I absolutely adored. I really did. Charlie Kirk, amongst other speakers in America, I have followed for years, simply because of the way they speak, how they say it, And in fact, I have learned a lot personally myself. I have learned a lot from some of his speeches, some of his debates, and ways of debating too. Some of the issues that we debate here in the UK and in the Western world. And there wasn't any taboos with Charlie. This is what I loved about him. He would discuss anything with anyone. And he was so intelligent. I have never seen that man lose a debate or an argument. And someone thought today that this man deserved to lose his life. This shows again, and I've said this so many times, the left who claim to be the people of love. Let's love everyone. Let's be kind. They preach and virtue signal. They are wolves in sheep's clothing. And I know that someone has been arrested. We'll go to the footage that we have available to us. As for Charlie, I mean, I was literally sat in my car driving to a supermarket when I heard that he had got shot and he was in a critical condition, and Donald Trump had called for people to pray for Charlie. And I did. I pulled over and I prayed for Charlie. And then by the time I pulled up on the drive and checked my phone, and I just received a message from my partner as well, containing a link about him. And I just went online and it was announced that he had passed away. We ask ourselves sometimes as Christians, why is it that people like Charlie, people who we love, people who mean a lot to us and the world, go? Why are they the first to go? And it often challenges one's belief or their faith at times, especially if it's one of your loved ones. But also when you see someone like Charlie get taken away so tragically, so quickly. Today he would have woke up like it was any normal day, going to a university, going to give a speech, going to debate people, meet his fans, and neither himself or his parents, but God knew that he wasn't going to return home today. Now we must, obviously, us who belong to the Christian faith, be steadfast in knowing that God's plan is always right, and that things happen for a reason. And I know at the moment the emotions in the United States are going wild. What I don't want to see from this, from a Western man's point of view, is any clashes or any fighting because of this incident. And it's not just this incident that has taken place neither. We must remember also the Ukrainian refugee who got multiply stabbed by a monster a schizophrenic monster that should not have been out roaming the streets like he was. But because of Biden's administration, because of people like Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, the left, these madmen, these schizophrenics, psychopaths were allowed to roam and do whatever they please. They flooded the country with a quarter of the UK's population. People unvetted, undocumented, just like we are seeing now. From places that have cultures and ideologies completely alien to ours. People that refuse to integrate. People that refuse to assimilate. And take their anger, their ideologies, what they believe in, out on those who actually pay for their accommodation, pay their welfare, pay for everything that they get. And they treat us like meat, like dirt. In honor of Charlie Kirk and in remembrance of his life, I would like to, I know it's not much, but I have this candle, and we often get these. This to me is a very meaningful candle because it's from my church, and I'll be honest, I'm not the greatest of Christians, and you know that. I swear like a sailor, and I don't go to church often as I should. I'm Eastern Orthodox, which again, this is a reminder for me to be a lot more like Charlie was. Now, I don't want this to be all doom and gloom. We will go and see how the media are portraying this. I have some footage that I have compiled for you guys. Witnesses that seen the event itself taking place. And also live coverage from Daily Wire, which Charlie was affiliated with. Yeah, I'm really, I'm lost for words this evening, and I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I just can't get my head round, because I wouldn't do it to anyone on the left. You know, the liberals, the Democrats as they would call them in the States, but here in the UK, anyone on the political left, these snowflakes, as brain dead as they are, and as much as I believe they are oxygen thieves, I would never ever agree with anyone taking their life. It's just wrong for their political views. And these are the people that claim, like I said, to be the people of love, the ones that have the best interests of the nation at heart. If you can let me know in the comments if you can hear me okay, that will be great. I am testing, well, I've got a new microphone, but I've only just managed to get it working. I would like to know if it's clear, for one, because that was the whole intention of buying it. If it's not loud enough, please tell me and I can turn it up. That would help me massively. But I'm going to show some content now. I have also put a link in the comments. So, loud and clear, brother. Brilliant. Thank you. I've put a link in the comments, and I shall do so again for anyone who would like to come up and have their say on this. But until then, we're just going to go on and we'll have a look at what happened today.
Breaking news that Charlie Kirk has apparently been shot at near the neck at Utah Valley University. Turning Point USA's Charlie Kirk was reportedly shot while speaking at a live Q&A session on campus. Eyewitnesses say he was hit near the neck while seated and fell from his chair as shots were fired. Students immediately ran for cover, and an evacuation of the UVU campus was launched after reports of an active shooter. According to multiple local outlets, the shot may have come from the rooftop of the Low C Center, though that hasn't yet been confirmed. What we do know is this: Charlie was struck during the event, and official details about his condition remain very limited. US Senator Mike Lee has already posted that he's monitoring the situation closely, urging prayers for Kirk and for the students caught up in this. At this point, the only thing we can say with certainty is that multiple sources confirm shots were fired, Kirk was hit, and UVU was forced into emergency response. The identity of the shooter, their motive, and the seriousness of Kirk's injuries are all still unclear.
I mean, obviously, this is Bruce Unfiltered, so he's a UK YouTuber. Obviously, I think he was one of the first ones here in the UK to jump on it. We do know that a person has been taken into custody,
So obviously new information coming in. I want to go now to Anna Schechter, senior producer for the CBS News Crime and Public Safety Unit. She's been following the latest information. Anna, what have we learned right now?
Well, we've just learned that police did take a man into custody, but actually he's been released at this point. So very fluid situation. Unclear at this time if they have caught the person who fired that shot, if that suspect is potentially still at large. The campus is essentially trying to clear itself out. They have police going room to room to try to clear people away from the area. But we reported earlier, we had multiple sources who told us a man was in custody. There is video of that our own confirmed team has cleared, and that individual has now been released. So still very fluid situation, unclear exactly who the suspect is and the motive. We still do not have either of those at this time. But the latest information is that the person who was taken into custody has now been released.
Yeah, let's touch on that, Anna, because we were saying let's not be quick to talk about what a motive may be, and obviously let's not be quick to talk about who the gunman may be. And so in this particular case, they did make an arrest. Was this person armed, and do we know why they jumped to that conclusion to arrest that person and now release them? I know information.
I know they always say, let's not jump to conclusions. And here in the United Kingdom, if you do, you actually get imprisoned. We've seen this. It happened when the Southport incident took place. Again, we have to be careful because of Ofcom and the censorship that we have here in the UK now, because freedom of speech is now dead. But I will say this, and I lock me up for saying it. I place bets. I put money on that whoever is responsible, if they get caught, that they belong, or there will be links of them belonging to the left side of politics. I honestly put everything that I own on the table with that. Just like we seen with Trump, it will be exactly the same.
Patients coming in quickly.
It's coming in, and we do have some information about the specific individual who was arrested, but we're not ready to report that. But there are people in the community who are known to law enforcement who show up at various political events. It appears that that might have been the case with respect to this initial arrest. We do not have any information at this time from law enforcement, local or federal, about pinpointing the suspect and letting us know that the person who fired that shot is in fact in custody right now as we're talking.
Yeah, obviously they have a list of people who are potential suspects in a crowd and notes of interest type thing. So then what does that mean for the crowd now in terms of clearing the area, securing a crime scene, and now looking for a potential active shooter?
That's right. They are going to be analyzing that video to try to determine exactly the point from where the shot was fired. This video that we're looking at right now, you can see, and investigators can take a look at the angle and do an analysis. There are people who are highly trained and have a lot of experience doing this, and they're going to try to case the location where they believe that shot was fired from. There's a forensic team that is already on that. Now we're a couple of hours after, so there's been some time for law enforcement to get on scene. Of course, initially the first order of business was to try to clear the area, get everyone to safety. Campus is closed. Classes are canceled. Security and law enforcement are going to various classrooms and other places where students gather to try to safely get them away from the area at this time. We have not been alerted that it is all clear. We have not gotten any information that the threat is neutralized at this point.
All right, Anna Schechter. Anna, thank you so much. We'll come back to you for more information on CBS News 24.
Not a big fan of CBS, but I love his tent, Charlie's tent. Prove me wrong. A man so, strong in his convictions. A man so educated. And all he wanted to do was educate others. That was his goal. It was to, you see these brain dead oxygen thieves that have no clue that you have the ones that support the Palestine supporters, for instance. He argued that case amazingly, and then also taboos, topics that some people don't want to talk about. Charlie was a complete, he was a scholar in it, and he was able to just absolutely downright take down anyone who would try and debate him. The amount of videos I've seen of the hilarious ones as well, which are funny, and he had that humor as well to go with it. He was an incredible man, an incredible Christian, and an incredible incredible person overall. And it's just, whoever he debated, these people, I hope that they've been able to take away the points that he made so that, because people do, they do change their mind. There's a saying, if you're not a lefty when you're young, you haven't got a heart. And if you're not on the right when you're older, you haven't got a brain. And you often see it when you're young. You believe everyone should love, and there should be peace, world peace, and why can't there be? And you try and think and feel like this, and then you grow up, you realize actually the world is not like that, and it's not as easy as that. And this is where Charlie was, and this is what he tried to tell people, but through debate. And there wasn't a topic that you could pick up that this man couldn't win. He was incredible. Let's go back to some of the videos.
I have a bit of breaking news that Charlie Kirk has apparently been shot at near the neck at Utah Valley University.
We'll get rid of Bruce. So we'll go back onto the playlist.
I have a bit of breaking news that Charlie Kirk has apparently...
So let's see what the witnesses described.
Decided to go watch Charlie Kirk between my classes, so.
My name is Paris. I just wanted to come and watch what I thought would be a civil conversation, and it turned completely different.
What did you see?
I looked down when it happened, but...
So basically, I heard a loud bang, which I figured a shot would be a little bit louder, but I just saw it hit him in the chest, and then all of a sudden just tons of blood gushing right out where his heart is, and then he like fell over and slumped down, and everybody got down and was screaming, and then we all ran.
Can you describe just, did he appear to be moving afterward, or what?
Not at all. I personally believe he was dead on impact.
Oh my goodness. What happened after that? What did you see?
Everyone got down. Everyone was so scared, and I just grabbed her, and my boss was with us.
The one in the middle actually seems quite shocked from it, but the one speaking, the blonde lady on the left, she almost looks like she's happy about it. The way she described it, the incident, how disgusting. Look at her facial expressions. She almost looks like, I mean, you can clearly see she doesn't care. Wow.
Which is her mom. She was like, run, and we finally got up and followed the crowd, and I just kept holding her. I don't even have my shoes on. I left my keys, and everyone's just like scared. Like it's traumatizing. Like, it scares. Like, I don't even want to go to school tomorrow,
Yeah.
So
I agree with that statement.
Yeah, I'm scared to go to school, but.
You heard the one shot. Were there multiple shots, or?
I think just one shot straight into Charlie Kirk, and that was it. And I think they got him.
And did you see the person who fired the shot or anything like that?
No, I just knew that it came to the right of me and went just directly into his heart. So.
I got a picture of him.
Did you? What did you see as far as? I mean, was the crowd? How was the crowd reacting to him? I mean, he is somewhat known for being provocative, but what was going on beforehand? What was he talking about?
So the first student got up and they were talking about religion, Mormonism, and Christianity, and the second student to get up was talking about transgenderism and how gun violence has been very frequent with that community, and that is when it happened. Pretty ironic.
Right after, during, right on that topic.
Whoa. So they were discussing gun violence, transgenderism, which belongs to the left, as far as I'm concerned, because everyone on the right doesn't believe in such nonsense. A man is a man and a woman is a woman. Again, British police, lock me up. A man is a man and a woman is a woman. And Charlie is one of those that believes that. Red is red, blue is blue. There is no grey area in that. And don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean that that means you can be nasty or horrible or treat anyone different because they decide or believe that they are transgender or anything like that. I would treat them just as I would treat anyone else. However, I just wouldn't believe, and I don't believe it's right that they should force the opinions of that person or that minority onto others. And Charlie was basically the same, and he would try and debate them. But just imagine, you're talking about gun violence, and then you pass away from the bullet of a gun.
Yeah, it's when he got shot in the heart. Yeah.
What did you?
She keeps saying shot in the heart. He got shot in the neck. But she keeps saying it went straight into his heart.
You all see? You're joining us. What did you see?
Well, I was about to enter the building. I heard what I thought was a gunshot, and I hurried and took cover. And then I saw the students running out, and I saw her. She was panicking. I thought she was having a panic attack. So then I grabbed her, and we ran through the tunnel, and then just brought her to my car over here to get her to calm down. So, yeah.
You?
I was watching from pretty close up, and I heard a pop, and I thought, no, that nobody's shooting firecrackers, right? This is the middle of the day. And then I watched a fountain of blood come out of the side of his neck like a water fountain. And it was surreal. Everyone dropped, and I was like, where's the gunman? I don't see any gunman. And then I dropped, because I'm just a very logical thinker like that. And so, yeah. And then a friend of mine drove me over here, just barely dropped me off, but he got a picture of the gunman, and it's pretty embarrassing. He got his pants pulled down as they took him down, and he sent me a picture. He was wearing garment bottoms, or what looked like white knee shorts. Just, Utah.
Obviously a volatile situation, and what was the crowd's reaction when all of this happened? You said you were standing there, a little frozen, it sounds like. What was the crowd's reaction?
Everyone freaked out and screamed, and then after everyone was leaving, there was just a lot of confusion until the cops started making everyone leave, because people were still standing around and talking and in clusters, but the majority had run. And so, after that, the police forced everyone in, and they started roping off the courtyard in yellow police tape. And then as we were walking through the hall, policemen with the campus was being shut down.
What did you see with the police? Was there a police presence there from the beginning? How did it unfold?
Yeah, so there definitely was a police presence there. I saw some on top of the balcony above, and some below. And of course, you have Kirk's own kind of bodyguards around. But I will definitely say we saw a lot more after the shooting, of course.
Of course. You said you may have seen something?
Well, I'm just saying Charlie Kirk is a hero.
He is. Absolutely. Pray for him. We don't know if he's still alive.
Everybody in there was very concerned for him. And all I could think of was go towards Charlie, because I just want to know if he was okay. There are a lot of people like him. He's a very courageous man.
What did you see? Can you just recap what you saw?
Yeah, I saw him just go over to the side. So everybody then dispersed and ran into the buildings or all over. But so I went toward Charlie, and then pretty soon they got somebody. The police arrested someone. They were dragging him all the way down. Older man, white hair, blue shirt. So I hope that was him. I hope they got him.
And you all are physically okay? I mean, I know what you experienced was certainly very traumatic, but you're physically unharmed?
Yeah, the man who, after they took him down, he yelled, "I'd do it again."
Wow. I think his name's
George. All right, we're going to send it back to you. We'll continue to talk to people who witnessed this and.
So hang on a minute. From what we know already, from the video that we watched earlier, a man was arrested but then later released. And that was supposed to be an old guy, which they clearly described and said, I done it and I would do it again. Why is there a man released that could potentially be the suspect? This is so confusing. But there's one video that we must watch, and this is sadly the last video that Charlie Kirk managed to post.
That's a lot of people, Utah, I'll tell you what. All right, we're going to get started, everybody. You know how it works. Question and answer. Also, thank you to Lane from Wire Refi. That was great. Really appreciate it. And
See, this is what he was. This is what he did. He would sit there with that gazebo on his chair outside of university campuses, and people would come up to him and he'd let them pick a topic and he would simply debate. That's why you don't see any fancy stage. That's why you don't see any other fancy things. He was just a very humble man, and you can see how well and how much he was loved. How many people are there and how happy he was to be just he's in his element. And with that being said, you can say he died doing what he did best. But still, a very young man with a very bright future ahead of him. Potentially a future president. He would have made a brilliant president. And I believe he would have headed that way. But now, because of someone who didn't agree with the same viewpoints as him, has prevented that future from ever taking place.
And we're going to be here for a couple hours. Get comfortable. Bring the best libs that Utah has to offer.
Now I know some of you that are watching this would actually want to know what happened, what took place, what it looked like. And I was going to show that video first to get it out the way and over and done with. But it's going to be a hard watch, especially now we know literally it wasn't long ago that this man has passed away, but this is the video that is virally doing its rounds. In the moment when Charlie sadly lost his life.
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Oh my God.
Go, run. Whoa. Counting or not counting gang violence? Great.
What the fuck? That's the right domain sign.
Those grey shorts.
You guys okay? Okay, love you. Be safe. Okay, be safe. Apparently there's been a shooting. I don't know who's been shot. We are here live at Utah Valley State University. I don't know if that was shots or if that was fireworks.
It really is sickening. If we go to Fox News and see what the latest is, and I mean, those women described the suspect perfectly, and as you've seen there in the video, that guy fitted the description to a T. But the first video that we watched together, and if you didn't see it, then please go back and watch the first video that I shared with you. On CBS News, they said the police did detain a man, but they released him shortly after.
Going in and out, there's Utah Highway Patrol, Provo Police, Orem Police, other departments across Utah County here, and even this crime scene tape that you're kind of seeing right now all went up in the last few minutes. So we don't know what could be happening in this area. We are seeing a lot more police activity that is ramping up. You're hearing sirens every few minutes, so there is some sort of presence here, but we're not sure exactly what is happening. I do want to tell you about people that have been coming by though. So you'll see people kind of walking around now with these American flags. We saw some people at the intersection that were just standing there holding signs. One said, "Pray for America," and some people wearing MAGA hats, but others just, here they say that even though they didn't agree with Charlie Kirk's beliefs and what he would say, they just don't think this should be happening.
Let's go on to the Daily
I can't tell you how many college students I met who told me, yeah, the reason I'm involved in all of this, the reason I even feel secure in speaking out about being conservative is because of Charlie Kirk, making it feel socially acceptable. And the number of young people who got to campus and thought, is there anyone else who agrees with me? Can I even be bold enough to speak out? And the number of those young people who looked around, they saw a Turning Point chapter on their campus, or Charlie came to their campus and spoke. And then those students said, I can do this. There's other young people like me. I'm going to have the courage to do it. I think that is a legacy that Charlie is going to leave. And I think of some of the early years. I went to virtually every single Turning Point, their big annual conference, every year since 2015. The 2015 event was in a little tiny ballroom at a Sheraton. There were maybe 100 students there. And I went up to Charlie and I said, "This is so cool. You filled up a whole room with students. What an amazing accomplishment." And he said, "We're just getting started."
Yes. The last time. Yeah. The last time I saw him, I said, wow, how many people is this time? And you just think the sky, in everyone's mind, the sky was the limit. Cabot, thank you very much. We have our friend Ben Shapiro, another friend of Charlie's, on now. So Cabot will catch.
There's legit nothing to say. I mean, it's rare that there's nothing to say, but there's truly nothing to say. I mean, unthinkable, absolutely unthinkable. I mean, I've known Charlie Kirk since Charlie was 18 years old. I met Charlie when I was a significantly younger man. I was 13 years ago. So I was in my late 20s and I was working at the David Horowitz Freedom Center. I met Charlie Kirk when he was a fresh-faced, bushy-tailed youngster who's starting Turning Point USA legitimately right out of high school. And he'd already found a couple of seed founders, but he's kind of walking around the David Horowitz Freedom Center event looking for donors. And I started introducing him around to donors. And I remember turning to Jeremy Boring, our co-founder here at Daily Wire, and turning to him at the time, because we both worked there, and saying, that kid is going to be the head of the RNC.
Yeah.
And I was wrong.
Yeah, I remember.
He wasn't the head of the RNC. He created his own organization that was significantly more important than the RNC, the most important conservative organization in the country. And Charlie was unendingly energetic, optimistic, a coalition builder. Somebody who got better at everything that he did.
Yeah.
Truly. I mean, I watched him from his youngest days. He got better at speaking. He got better at debating. He got better at fundraising. He was great at all of these things. But the thing that there's so many, kind of layers of horror here, so many layers of horror. Obviously, just as a human being, Charlie's a 31-year-old man who believed in God. As a Christian, he believed in Christ. He's with God now. He had a wife and 2 children, 2 very, very young children who will now grow up without a father. And when he was a young single guy, right? I mean, now he's a full-grown adult man with family, preaching in favor of marriage and family and religion and all the things that actually matter to all of us. And what does it mean for our country? Truly, what does it mean for our country when, for the crime of speaking freely, having normal debates in public, Charlie lost his life? Charlie was an unending well of energy, just endless energy, bundle of energy, like exhausting levels of energy, actually. And yet, and what stopped Charlie Kirk is a murderer's bullet, is an assassin's bullet. And we don't know who the assassin is yet. We don't know what the cause of the assassin was yet. I'm sure it will be political, because it would be unthinkable for it not to be. But something has happened in our country that is so massively and unbelievably horrifying and dangerous. The murder of a young, beautiful person for the crime of speaking freely and passionately about the topics that matter is just, it's beyond me. It's beyond, I think, all of us. And it's a symptom of a broader ill in American society, an ill that says that politics are blood sport, that if you challenge ideas, that you're challenging somebody's existence, and therefore you are fair game to be murdered in cold blood, in public, in front of everyone. And we've seen so many instances of violence being excused and looked away, particularly by the political left these days. And I fear that it's not going to end. I fear that it only gets worse from here. That's my fear. It's a moment for I think, where we could, as a country, say no more of this. We've had periods in American history like this before, the 1960s and 70s being one. And at a certain point, Americans said, no, we're not doing this anymore. But I wonder if the American body politic has the immune response necessary to stop this massive evil from ever happening again in our country. But then after I have all those sort of political thoughts and all of that, and kind of meander my way around, what I come back to is poor Charlie. That's really what I come back to. And I understand he's with God now. And I understand that for Christians, that's a cause for celebration. But I just have to say that in my own view of Charlie Kirk, is a person who deserved 90 more years of life. He deserved to make a difference on this planet in favor of the country that he loved for decades more. He deserved to sit and raise his family. He deserved to be able to bounce his children on his knee and hug them and kiss them goodnight. And whoever is responsible for this, there are no words for the evil that this person has just inflicted on not only Charlie's family, but on the country, and he made the world a significantly worse place today.
Charlie, as you point out, was very good at many things and kept getting better and better and better at all of those things, at organizing, at getting out the vote, at fundraising, at messaging, at persuading, at reading, it's just at everything, at understanding faith, at everything. And one of the things that he had absolutely been dominating on, had become synonymous with, was open debate with your ideological opponents. Gracious, charitable, open debate anywhere with your ideological opponents. A lot of people have done that over the years, but he was the man for that in this moment in our time. And one has this sinking feeling, if he did that, and he did it so well, and they killed that guy, What comes next?
Yeah, I mean, I've had this thought myself a lot. Obviously, some of us have been doing that on campuses for a very long time. Right? And I've been in a lot of situations that felt, not particularly safe. I mean, when I spoke at Berkeley years ago, they required something like 500 police officers to quote unquote ensure my safety, and I always thought it was overkill. I really did. I mean, I had been wearing bulletproof vests at these events for years, specifically because security told me that it wasn't overkill. But I always thought it was overkill. I always thought, this is a great country. This is not a country where people get murdered for just speaking freely about political issues of the day. I had faith in America that I grew up in that didn't do this sort of thing, that would never tolerate this, certainly would never celebrate this sort of thing, certainly would never go on TV and talk about the justification, the emotional justification for this sort of thing, or go on TV, as we're actually seeing hosts today do, and try to or make excuses or suggest that because Charlie had the wrong views, that somehow he had contributed to this, or this sort of monstrous response. And that's not the country that I grew up in. And so, when Michael, you've done it too. Every time you go to a college campus, you'll have friends and family who will say things like, well, don't you feel unsafe? And my answer was always, no, I never felt unsafe.
Yeah.
Even if I had security, I said, I'm the safest guy in the building. I've got security. I've got a vest. Like, okay.
Security. And even when people would, there have been a few instances where someone throws an explosive, or when someone busts open a door, something like that. And even then, I guess there's this sense of, well, look, it could never really go south. It couldn't. Come on, we're just debating ideas. Right. Come on, we're just giving a college lecture or something. I mean, it's why even at this moment, I'm having trouble accepting
processing this. It's almost impossible to process. It's impossible to process. That's right. Yes. And now I will say that just on a public policy basis, this is the end of all outdoor public events. Like, they're done. I mean, in terms of political events, it's over. Yeah. Yeah. And we saw the president of the United States almost shot in the head during an outdoor public event. We saw Charlie Kirk murdered in front of all of us at an outdoor public event. That's over. And we're going to lose something with that. And we're going to lose something in losing debate. We're going to something is broken in this country, deeply, deeply broken in this country, for somebody like Charlie Kirk to just be assassinated again for the great crime of speaking what used to just be known as sort of traditional conservative values. That is just
normal.
It's a political assassination. I mean, it's not just a murder. It's a political assassination. It's the worst political assassination in half a century in this country. It really is. Yep. I mean, there have been assassination attempts on presidents. Obviously, Ronald Reagan was shot. There was an attempted assassination of Donald Trump. Both of them lived. The actual full-scale murder of a 31-year-old superstar like Charlie,
future president,
for the great crime of saying things on college campuses that people didn't want to hear. Something needs to change. Something needs to change. And the people who lead that change cannot be people who agreed with Charlie. It needs to be the people who disagreed with Charlie, because I promise you that when the political motivation of the person who did this comes out, it's not going to be somebody who agreed with Charlie. It's not going to be somebody who was warm to Charlie's message. It's going to be somebody who is of the belief that because Charlie spoke words are a form of violence and an erasure of identity, and therefore Charlie has to be silenced. It's horrifying. Nobody should believe that in a free republic. The foundations of the republic, I don't really believe I'm exaggerating when I say this shakes the foundations of the country. Because if we cannot trust each other to have normal conversations in public about basic issues of governance and policy and values, how the hell are we supposed to have a country together? How? It's not possible.
That's right. I agree. Ben, I'm going to leave the stream to you. And I know a lot of people are going to tune in and be processing this all together. And I'm sure all of us will be praying. Good to see you, pal.
Yeah, well, we all need to be praying. We need to keep praying for Charlie, for his family, and for the country. Most of all, I appreciate it, Michael. All right, folks. So if you're just joining us right now, the reason that we are broadcasting right now is because one of the most tragic things in modern American history has now befallen the country. One of the greatest acts of evil in modern American history has now befallen the country. The assassination of my friend and a truly great human being, Charlie Kirk. Charlie was shot to death a little bit earlier today. He was shot to death in Utah. He was speaking at a college campus. He was doing one of his usual sort of tete-a-tetes with a variety of students, where he would have sort of an open setting, and people would come up and they would ask him questions, and they would go at him and he'd go back at them. And then there'd be a viral clip, all in good fun, all an element of sort of the political debate that happens in the country just as a matter of course, and has been the legacy of this country, different than virtually all other countries in the history of the world. Well, Charlie was doing that when suddenly a shot rang out. Apparently the shot was fired from approximately 200 yards away from on top of a building, and the bullet struck Charlie in the neck. And by the footage, which I certainly do not recommend watching, I hope that people stop trafficking the footage, because it is horrifying in every way. And Charlie should not be remembered like that. He should be remembered for what he was, which was a political superstar. And we'll get to my feelings for Charlie in a second, and my experiences with Charlie and who Charlie was. The shot rang out from about 200 yards away, and it looks like effectively Charlie, he survived until he got to the hospital, but it looks like he was almost instantaneously killed. It's one of the most horrifying things I have ever seen in my entire life. I've known Charlie Kirk since he was 18 years old, which means that I would have been about 28, about 10 years older than Charlie. I was working at the time at the David Horowitz Freedom Center, where I was the editor-in-chief of a website called Truth Revolt. And Charlie showed up at the Breakers, which is kind of a ritzy hotel in Palm Beach. And he was fundraising. He had just started an organization that he was introducing around as Turning Point USA. Nobody ever heard of it. Nobody ever heard of him. I met Charlie. Charlie was an unending ball of energy at 18 years old. And one of the things that I've said around the company before is you cannot teach grit. It's a thing that cannot be taught. You either have it or you don't. There is no person with more grit, more get-go, more gumption, more enthusiasm and energy than Charlie Kirk. Didn't exist. It was almost exhausting. When Charlie was at the Breakers and we met Charlie, and he was going around introducing, just moving around the room, introducing himself to everybody, saying he wanted to start a conservative activist organization that was going to transform how young people thought about politics. I remember turning to Jeremy Boring, who was also at David Horowitz Freedom Center at the time, and saying to Jeremy, that kid is going to be the head of the RNC one day. And we agreed on that at the time. And I'd been saying it for years. And it turns out that Charlie was significantly more than that. It turns out that Charlie ended up founding the single most important political conservative organization of our era in Turning Point USA, driving hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions of people, to the polls, registering voters, putting up these enormous events that drew together tens of thousands of conservatives at one time, helping to lead the debates on the critical issues, going to college campuses. Again, all of this was because Charlie just never stopped moving, just never, ever stopped moving. And I watched Charlie grow from the outside. Obviously, Charlie and I are friends, but Charlie had closer friends than I was with Charlie. He had family, obviously, but watching Charlie over the course of his career from a fairly decent vantage point, Charlie was dedicated to making the country better and to making himself better at things. I remember when Charlie first started, he wasn't an amazing speaker. By the time he finished, he was a terrific speaker. Charlie didn't start off as somebody who was fluent in debate. By the time he finished, he was terrific at debate. Charlie started off as a pretty good fundraiser. He ended as an amazing fundraiser. Charlie Kirk was a coalition builder. He was somebody who was focused on the idea that in order to win power, to effectuate change, you actually do have to build coalitions. And that means talking to wide varieties of people, many of whom disagree with one another. And that's a difficult business. It's a dirty business. It means that you're talking with a bunch of people you don't agree with nearly all the time. And Charlie mastered that art. On a personal level, Charlie, I watched him grow from a very young man, 18 years old, to become a father of two, become a husband. I watched Charlie grow in his religious belief. If you watch tapes of Charlie over the course of the last year, he almost invariably talks about God, talks about the Bible, talks about his belief in Christ. And Charlie was murdered for the great crime of speaking publicly about controversial issues with people in a normal conversation, in a normal debate and discussion setting. That is why he was murdered. We don't know yet the identity of the person who murdered Charlie Kirk, who assassinated Charlie Kirk. We don't know who that person was. The President of the United States has ordered all flags across the country lowered to half staff in honor of Charlie Kirk. Again, it's just, I can't even believe these are words that are coming out of my mouth. I cannot even believe it, because Charlie was 31 years old. He was 31 years old. Absolutely just horrifying. And, I know that on a religious level, obviously he's with God now. And for many people that are religious, that's a cause for rejoicing, not for despair. For me, on behalf of the country, I don't despair on Charlie's behalf. I also believe that Charlie's with God. But I despair on behalf of my country. I feel horrific for his family. I just think to myself, Charlie's sitting there and he's debating politics, and the next moment, the bullet is passing through his neck. And I just think poor Charlie, my friend, person I knew pretty well, and from the time he's, again, very, very young. It's just devastating in every way it's possible for it to be devastating. Just every way it's possible for it to be devastating. The President of the United States put out a statement on Truth Social, lamenting and mourning the death of Charlie Kirk. He said, "The great and even legendary Charlie Kirk is dead. No one understood or had the heart of the youth in the United States of America better than Charlie. He was loved and admired by all, especially me. And now he's no longer with us. Melania and my sympathies go out to his beautiful wife, Erica, and family. Charlie, we love you." I don't know what this means for the country. I do not know what this means for America, truly. When political figures who just are out to discuss and debate in public are gunned down in cold blood, I do not know what we can expect next. On a personal level, obviously, I spent an awful lot of time on college campuses doing the same sort of stuff, debating, being out there, talking to people. And I've had, significant security concerns before. Obviously, when I was at Berkeley, for example, they required something like 500 police officers. And I always thought it was overkill. I really did. I thought, security team is saying you should put on a bulletproof vest. Okay, fine, I'll do it, but I think it's overkill. Do I need this many police officers? Nah, it's overkill. People would ask me about that. I'm sure Charlie had exactly the same feeling. In fact, I know Charlie had the same feeling because we'd had that conversation. That you feel like, okay, well, is it really that big? Okay, so somebody might take a swing or somebody might yell at you. Is it really that big a deal? This is America. In America, you don't hurt people for having different political opinions. You don't kill people for having different political opinions. This is not what America is. It is the opposite of what America is. And then gradually, it seems that in this country, we have come to the conclusion that if somebody disagrees with you strenuously enough politically, that violence is now a necessity. That if the systems don't align with what you wish they were, then murder is on the table. That if a person is murdered and you're a member of the media, that your first reaction should be to, if they had the wrong political views, imply or say openly that perhaps it was their political views that brought this on them. It is a terrible, terrible moment. And I don't know, to be honest with you, how we pull out of it, other than to just say utter intolerance for political violence of any way, shape, or form. Utter intolerance of it. It is just awful. I keep saying the same things over and over, but what do you say when somebody that you knew pretty well and somebody in the same line of work as you and somebody who is doing many of the things that you admired is just shot and killed? I'm hesitant to show the footage of the shooting, so I'm not going to, because I don't think there really is a purpose to showing the actual footage. It's horrifying. And again, I don't think that there is a reason for that. Apparently, there's going to be a press conference starting fairly soon here from the White House about all of this. We'll obviously go to that when that happens. There is footage of Charlie interacting with the crowd at the Utah event. This is just moments before he was shot. It's clip 2. Charlie throwing shirts to the crowd. Unbelievable. MAGA hats and all the rest. He sits down. And a few minutes later, he was shot to death. You can see in the distance some of the buildings. Presumably one of those was used as the overlook from which he was murdered. Charlie obviously is a family man. The footage, I can't even watch the footage with his kids. It's just terrible. It's just the worst thing. But we should watch that footage together, because this is what happens when you let the evils of the human heart overcome you. You take people like Charlie Kirk with young kids out of the world for no reason other than you don't like his politics. Here's Charlie Kirk with his daughter on the Fox set. It's clip 5. Apparently, Charlie was rushed to the hospital by security. We know that he was still barely alive, apparently, in the car. I believe he died at the actual hospital. There was some news that had broken that he was in critical condition. There was a brief hope that he might be able to survive. But obviously, if you've watched the original tape of the shooting, I think that pretty much everybody knew, even from the original tape, that would have taken an extraordinary miracle. The miracle is that somebody like Charlie, who was a high school graduate, who never went to college, who built this thing out of nothing, was able to do that in this country. That is a miracle, and that's the miracle of the country. And I wonder whether that miracle is duplicable in a country where people are snuffed out at the age of 31 because people disagree with Charlie Kirk. The mainstream media, legacy media, some of them have been predictably awful. MSNBC's Matt Dowd had one of the worst comments of the day, and I think we should point this out because people should understand that if this is the tack you choose to take, you are facilitating violence, truly. If you take the tack that if you say awful things in America, then the violence simply descends upon you or deserves to descend upon you because you are so threatening, that implication creates a permission structure for violence. You're not responsible for the shooter, but you are responsible for raising the temperature. I've said this 1 million times over the course of the last couple of years. Here's Matt Dowd, couldn't help himself. As Charlie's body was not yet cold, here's what Matt Dowd had to say over on MSNBC.
But following up on what was just said, he's been one of the most divisive, especially divisive younger figures in this, who is constantly sort of pushing this sort of hate speech or sort of aimed at certain groups. And I always go back to hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which then lead to hateful actions. And I think that's the environment we're in, that people just, you can't stop with these sort of awful thoughts you have and then saying these awful words and not expect awful actions to take place.
Matt.
And that's the unfortunate environment we're in.
What an utter, complete piece of shit. I mean, truly, like to say that on the day that somebody is murdered, that
because we're live, obviously, I'm just gonna mute because I'm live and Ben Shapiro's live. So I don't want to pause because, you know, in a second there's going to be a press conference from the White House, which you know, we definitely want to watch and see what is going to be said there. But like he said, how disgusting can someone be to say that? In other words, if in context, that Matt Dowd basically said Charlie deserved this. That because he upset a few people on the left, because he said things that didn't totally align with other people's, because he was a divisive person? You're not divisive simply because you hold different political beliefs. Does that make people divisive with their religious beliefs? So if I'm a Christian now, or if someone is a Muslim, does that mean that we're divisive? Or a Muslim is a divisive person now? A Christian is a divisive person? A Jew is a divisive person? A Buddhist is a divisive person? Because of what you believe makes you divisive. This is how brainwashed, brain dead, and absolutely stupid these people are. They believe that because you have different opinions to them, that it's okay for hateful actions to take place. It's not. The Western world is built on democracy. There's a balance. You have one side and you have another. They argue it out to find middle ground. That's what democracy is. That is what the United States is. That is what the United Kingdom is. And those who reside in those countries pick a side that they agree with the most, and that's the side that they choose to govern and run the country. And last year, they decided it was the side that Charlie Kirk was on by a majority that you could not deny. And he was a father. You've seen that video, which literally brought me, I was tearing up. His kids won't see him again, and vice versa. His wife won't see her husband again. A widow left with children. Because someone didn't agree with him. And the same could have happened, and almost was very, very close. It was a miracle that Donald Trump is still alive today on both occasions where, again, someone on the left decided to try and take him out. But today, you didn't win. Those who wanted Charlie, or people like Charlie, unalived or out of this world, you did not win. Because we are not like you. This is a battle that we will not fight on, because we will not lower ourselves to your level. It is you that needs to change. If you think for a second that it is okay to do, or what happened today was okay, then it is you that is the problem. There are many speakers and politicians that I cannot stand for a second. I cannot stand them. People like Keir Starmer, Angela Rayner, David Lammy, all those that are in the Labour Party, basically, all those in the Green Party and the Liberal Democrats, and all the Islamic institutions. I don't agree with them and can't stand them. For the life of me, I cannot stand them. But that does not mean that I believe that what happened to Charlie should happen to them. And if anything ever did happen to those who I don't agree with, I would be equally as frustrated, equally as sad that we have found ourselves in this age, in this day and age, in a position where we can no longer have our own political beliefs, where our safety is put at jeopardy because of what we say, what we believe, or what we think. They say free speech was dead here in the UK. And America has been talking a lot about free speech and the UK and how two-tier care is censoring and silencing, and according to 2023 statistics, 30 arrests a day are made because of social media posts. Yet they do believe that that now could have possibly not just doubled, but tripled. More arrests than Russia make on social media posts. And like I said on another video, if you put our little island in comparison to the size of Russia, that speaks volumes of how totalitarian our country has become. Yet we look, and America, although they have the First Amendment and the freedom of speech written in their constitution, embedded into their identity, their land, their flag, their souls, their blood. Today, not only did Charlie Kirk die, but freedom of speech in America died with him. And let's take a moment to reflect on that. And before there is a briefing or any kind of a speech from the White House, I just want to, as a Christian and as a brother in Christ with Charlie, I just want to say a prayer. And I hope those of you who are watching live with me now don't mind if you are not a Christian. But if you are a Christian, then I please do ask of you to pray with me, whether you are watching this live or watching this as a rerun. And I pray now. Heavenly Father, please look after our brother Charlie, who passed away tragically today. May the hatred and the evil of this world be exposed. May the darkness be brought to the light. And may those who are suffering right now, be it they are scared, be it they are mourning, grieving, please comfort them. And through Christ, I pray you keep Charlie within heaven and grant him eternal life. Charlie was a representative of you, my Lord, a brother of mine, a brother of the church. And although we may not have belonged to the same denomination, indeed he was a brother in Christ. Lord, help heal this world from its division, from its evil, from those who have opposing views that feel it's okay to go and take one's life. Turn their hearts of stone into hearts of flesh and guide them on your path, Lord. In Jesus' name, through the Holy Spirit. Amen. And I just want to say quickly on that, after that as well, the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And deliver us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. I'll return now back to Turning Point. I believe we are now going to have... Oh, not yet.
Authorities in Utah for your partnership with the FBI. He says that there is a suspect in custody. We don't know more than that at this point. Obviously, we will bring you all of the news as it emerges. It's just awful. Again, it's not hard to find people on the internet who are willing to say the world's worst things. And so I would urge you, particularly in times of tragedy, to get off the internet and go be with human beings. Don't go to Blue Sky, whatever you do, and find the psychotic leftists who today are celebrating Charlie's murder. Don't wallow in that sort of stuff, because it is bad for the soul and it is bad for the country. And people really need to get out of the bubble that is the online space, where you can say whatever you want anonymously without any fear of repercussion, and say awful, awful things. I'm going to try not to do that today, because it's not hard to find people who are anonymous to say terrible things. It's one thing to call out public figures who are on legacy news networks saying awful things, but I don't think that it deserves the attention of the public, nor should we glorify people who say awful things for the attention by giving them the attention in the first place. Brent Scher, the editor-in-chief of the Daily Wire, is joining us now. Brent, do we have any updates on what is going on with the suspect at this point?
You know, it's actually a really fluid situation and a bit confusing. FBI Director Kash Patel tweeted out that they have their suspected assassin in custody. But then right now, as we speak, there's a law enforcement press conference where they said that the suspected assassin is still at large. Now, I don't really know what's going on here. It's impossible to tell. It's possible that as they walked out to that press conference, they didn't get the update that the guy is in custody. And as we're talking, maybe they've updated it. But right now we are getting a different story from the FBI than local law enforcement in Utah is telling.
So, Brent, obviously, we've seen a fair bit of consternation across the nation. On the House floor, there was a bit of a tete-a-tete that we just played on the show. Overall, most of the politicians have come out and sort of suggested the obvious, which is that violence is bad. What have you been seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say first one I saw was Gavin Newsom, who I think it was a big moment for Charlie Kirk this year. Gavin Newsom, a front runner for 2028, went on with Charlie Kirk on his podcast. It was the first episode of Gavin Newsom's podcast, and he chose to do it with Charlie Kirk. And they had a pretty open conversation about all the issues, and Charlie kind of ribbed him, and Gavin Newsom ribbed him, and they went back and forth, and it was a great moment for Gavin Newsom. And that's kind of what Charlie Kirk was known for. He gave Democrats a platform. He was willing to talk to them, and amazingly, always had the right answers. Like, it was just so amazing to see from Charlie Kirk when he'd be at this college events or talking to any politician. I never saw Charlie get flat-footed or caught off guard by some question. People would call him out on some obscure Bible verse, and Charlie Kirk knew exactly what they were getting at and would always know how to kind of shoot it right back at them. So, I mean, he did that with Gavin Newsom. You'd seen some other people who have spoken out in support and sending their prayers. Barack Obama has, Kamala Harris has. It's a tragic moment, and I think any Democrat who doesn't recognize that is making a big political mistake.
Well, Brent, we appreciate the time, and obviously, as we get some more of the information, I'm sure that we'll learn more. Apparently, Utah's Governor Spencer Cox is calling Charlie Kirk's murder a political assassination, which clearly it is. I mean, when somebody's in the middle of giving a political event, debating things like mass shootings and trans politics, and they're murdered, that's obviously a political assassination. Just to put this in historic context, as I said before, I think this is probably the most important political assassination of the last 50 years. You'd probably have to go back all the way to the late 1960s when there was a spate of assassinations ranging from Martin Luther King Jr. to Malcolm X to RFK to come up with anything remotely similar. There was an attempted assassination, obviously, of the President of the United States last year. It was an attempted, it did not succeed. But we are seeing, I think it would be very difficult to argue that we're not seeing a radical increase in the amount of political violence, particularly from the left side of the aisle these days. And it would be inaccurate to say there's no violence from the right side of the aisle. There is. It would also be inaccurate to say that the amount of political violence we're seeing from the right side of the aisle is matched in degree by the amount of political assassination, attempted violence that we are seeing from the left side of the aisle. It's just, it would be false to say that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's absolutely correct. And I mean, you even see it in the rhetoric in the response to this. And you see it in the rhetoric from the left on the response to, I would count as a leftist assassination, the assassination of a CEO in New York City, I believe it was earlier this year. That was by political far leftist extremists who are anti-capitalist. And that was widely cheered on the left. You had, you know, well-known authors like Taylor Lorenz talking about how this is a good thing and you understand why it happened. And I imagine, sadly, and we're going to see a lot of that, of people like, well, Charlie Kirk talked about these issues that, you know, we really shouldn't be talking about, but that's what Charlie Kirk did, and nothing excuses this. And I mean, I pray that we don't hear that, but we will.
Yes, Brent, I appreciate it, and I certainly agree with you. I do want to take a moment to say what is very frequently said at Jewish funerals, but obviously belongs to the Christian tradition as well as Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Charlie will dwell in the house of the Lord. Charlie belongs to history now. The President of the United States has announced that all flags will be flown at half staff throughout the country. There's not much to say. There's not much to say. Cassie Akiva is joining us momentarily to give us her latest news updates and a recap on what's been happening across the country. Cassie, thanks so much for taking the time. What are you hearing out there?
So I think one of the most disturbing things I'm seeing right now on Twitter, and I don't know if this is confirmed yet, is that his wife and children were in attendance. I really hope that's not true. That's really traumatic. His children are aged 1 and 3. And even if they weren't, there's videos all over the internet. And I'm on maternity leave right now, and I'm holding my newborn baby, and I just get a video of my friend Charlie being killed. And so I think people need to remember that Charlie had taken a lot of heat for being so out there and challenging people who were on his side, people who are not on his side. And one of my last conversations with Charlie, which was just a few weeks ago, he was telling me that the noise on the internet was really getting to him. And, people like me and you and Charlie in the position, we get a lot of hate. And the way we get through that is we have our friends in real life, and, we realize Twitter is not real life. Well, this is a case where Twitter did become real life. And you had hateful people come in and hurt him. And what Charlie said to me was he was just trying to tune out the noise, and it's just really upsetting that this happened. And it's, I first met Charlie when I was a college student. He was one of the first people who I interacted with when I was getting into conservative politics. And there's so many people in my position that can say that exact same thing. So it's just, it's one of our own of the conservative movement, this happening to, and it's really quite frightening.
Happen in public again. They can certainly happen, in screened areas where everybody knows who everybody is. But these sort of open debates, it's going to be very difficult to have those things happen again. You also mentioned the fact that Charlie, spent an inordinate amount of time having those discussions, having those debates, and it is for that reason that he is dead today. That is his great crime. And one of the points that you make there that I think is really important, I mentioned it a little bit earlier before he came on, is the bleed over from the online world to the real world is quite real. It is a thing that happens. And so we'll say, go out and touch grass, ignore what's happening online. And Charlie was attempting to do that. I think for our own mental health, we should all attempt to do that. But, the reality is that fringes become real. Violent rhetoric online can turn into violence in real life. People who are threatening online, that becomes a real thing. When people find common cause, when people find supporters, when people find a home for their hatred online, and then they proceed to take that out into the real world, it has deadly consequences. And obviously the murder of our friend Charlie is just a great example of that. I wish I could say something more uplifting on this day, but there's nothing honestly, I can find nothing uplifting to say on this day. Literally nothing, other than to just remember my friend and a person who made a huge difference to the country. But maybe there'll be something uplifting to say tomorrow, but not in the moment.
One of the things that has really upset me in the last few months is Charlie has been one of the biggest offenders of Jewish people and he's not a Jewish person, right? He has these debates and they're quite aggressive on a lot of these videos. And as a Jewish person, I was very distressed that people were giving him a lot of crap online, like Jewish people were, for hosting various debates and all that. And I just, I texted Charlie and I was like, Charlie, thank you for, holding these debates. And like, just know that I appreciate you and so many people appreciate you. And he was like, yeah, I know I get a lot of hate for this. And I just want to feel like, I have the Jewish people's back. I want them to have my back. And this is such a hard thing to do because, he was challenging. He could have done the easy thing and tackled on to Israel and went through all these conspiracy theories, but he didn't. He pushed back on people on the right who are getting a lot of platforming by saying that Israel is evil and all of this, right? So that was one of the things he went out and he stayed with his morals. And I really think Charlie, that was something that was really important to him. I mean, things that Charlie was saying in 2016, 2017 are not much different from what he's been saying recently. So I think for him being so morally consistent, especially as, his star has just risen. When I knew him, he had like this tiny organization with a couple hundred college students, and now he definitely became one of the most important political voices. So it's just, it's really upsetting. Like I'm freaked out. Like I got my career started going to these tense places, going into these protests. I don't want to go to protests anymore. Like this is really scary that people would come out and use violence in this manner. It's shocking.
Well, Cassie, I really appreciate the time. Obviously, we're all praying together for Charlie's family, and hang in there.
Thanks. You too, Ben.
Well, joining us on the line in just a moment is our friend Reagan, who's going to stop by and tell us what he meant to young conservatives. She'll be by in just a little bit because obviously, what's sort of amazing having watched Charlie for so long is that Charlie's in this business for a very long time. And he kind of, I have a lot of kinship with Charlie career-wise. I started when I was 17. He started when he was about the same age. He was one of the most accomplished people in the country politically at the age of 31. And that means an entire generation of people grew up with him. And so we'll be joined in just a moment by Reagan to tell us what it was like with Reagan Conrad, what it was like as a young person looking up to Charlie. But what I will come back to is this. There are so many layers here. There's the layer of free speech under threat. There is the layer of a left that truly believes that opposing arguments, far left, not everybody on the left. I know I have a lot of friends on the left, but people who truly believe that opposing speech is to be met with violence. There's the layer of what do we do about a country in which public debate can be met with violence? How do we even hold those debates anymore? How can we go out in public if we're speaking publicly about these issues? And then there's just what I keep coming back to, which is Charlie Kirk as a human being, as a father, as a husband, murdered in the prime of his life at the age of 31. Charlie, he had, as you say, as I said at the beginning, decades to contribute, decades more to contribute, ripped out of this world by a malicious piece of human debris. It's unthinkable. It's absolutely unthinkable. And now the unthinkable is reality. And so if we as a country don't figure out a way to crack down on this infectious insanity that has run roughshod over a huge percentage of our politics, then I don't know that, I truly don't know that the best of our republic is a rejection of this. The best of our republic is a rejection of what just happened today, is a forcible rejection of it. It's unspeakable. It is beyond words. Now they're going to be, I promise you, I have a hard time going to the optimistic place on this day. There are too many people who are going to pick up Charlie's baton where it lies in his blood. There are going to be so many people who pick it up and run with it. So many people who see what Charlie was fighting for, things like traditional family and faith and liberty and free markets and the Constitution, and they say, I will run with that because Charlie can't run with that anymore. And Charlie spent his entire life building up, certainly his adult life, building up an organization of people who can pick up that baton and run with it. And it's up to everyone to do that now. That doesn't stop the breaking of the American heart right now. It doesn't stop any of the pain. It is, we can look forward to tomorrow when his body is cold. In the moment, all we can do is mourn and say that whoever is responsible for this needs to pay the greatest price that it is possible for that person to pay. And those who defend that action, those who make excuses or permission structures for that action, need to be run out of public life on a rail. Truly. Not through violence, through the way that we do things in this country, through discourse and through debate. If you commit a crime, through criminal law. The fact that we've even come to this in America in 2025 is devastating beyond belief. And again, I'll just go back to, I don't like talking about my own personal feelings. You know, I'm not a feelings person, but yeah, I don't have a tough time expressing myself on a lot of things. And when it comes to my personal feelings, I sometimes do. And today, all I can say is that for a person, for all of us whose job it is to produce words in the moment, there are no words to describe the horror, the pain, the soul sickness that I think so many of us are feeling today. Cabot Phillips is joining us on the line to give us an update on the communications in the FBI, local law enforcement. Cabot, what's the latest here?
We've got an update now.
Yeah, there's been sort of a fog of war back and forth so far today. Initially, there was an individual who was seen arrested at the university shortly after those shots were fired. The university said initially that they believed this was the shooter. That man's name was George Zinn. He was apparently known to local police beforehand and had in the past had some run-ins with the law. I believe it was allegedly making terroristic threats. So they thought they had their guy. But it turns out George Zinn was not the person that they believe committed this act. So they revoked that statement saying the shooter is still at large. But then within the past hour, FBI Director Kash Patel posted online that the subject was in custody. So that led everyone to believe that the shooter, had been apprehended. But then just minutes after that, there was a press conference that took place where local officials said that they did not necessarily have the alleged shooter in custody. So there was this interesting moment where some local reporters pressed one of the spokespeople there saying, who's right? Is it the FBI or is it you? And the local officials there said that they had a person of interest in custody that was not George Zinn. So this is a separate individual. They did not give any other information beyond that. They did not even use the word suspect. They said person of interest. So right now, the general public still not really sure. We've been working all of our sources on the ground there, but we're still just not sure exactly who is in custody and what the ongoing threat is from the shooter.
So confusion continues to reign. Obviously, keep it here and we'll bring you all the updates as we continue. Honestly, it's going to take a while for us to process all of this. Reagan Conrad will join us momentarily to talk about what Charlie meant to young people. The fact that we're doing obituaries for a 31-year-old person is totally destructive. I mean,
again, obviously, I'm not going to pause live whilst Ben Shapiro on Daily Wire is running. I'll just mute it just to obviously speak myself. There are no words, are there? I mean, Ben Shapiro basically just summed everything what I said earlier. We're in 2025, and we've got the freedom of speech is clearly like, I mean, the Americans have been talking about it being dead in the UK, but today with someone, well, not just someone, but Charlie, a brother in Christ and someone who I highly admired, that gave me a lot of inspiration over the years, taught me a lot through his videos of how to debate and good points to use on debating with. tools, effectively, that Charlie has passed on to me, even though I've never met the guy in my life. And he was shot at his own event, and he's got kids, he's got a wife, just for having opposing views. This is nothing short and nothing but a political assassination. And when you see the left-wing news outlet, that Matt Dowd, turn around and say, well, when you say controversial things, that cause bad feelings, and bad feelings lead to bad actions, he is actually congratulating and celebrating and making it okay. So does that mean it's okay for me to go to the Matt Dowd's house because he has opposing views to mine? Does that make it okay for someone to go and do the same thing to Joe Biden, Kamala Harris? Oh, no, 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 no. No, you can't do it if it's on the left. But if you're on the right, you're divisive, and you speak the truth, that a man is a man, and a woman is a woman, and that red is red and blue is blue, you lose your life. Or you potentially could lose your life. And America is now at a point where they seriously have to consider, and people are going to be now scared of wanting to say things or expressing how they truly feel. And no, this isn't the first time it's happened. We've seen it in the past with Kennedy and Lincoln. We've seen it happen before. And we've seen MPs in Britain also be murdered or threatened or violently attacked simply due to politics. And politics is a dangerous game. However, it shouldn't be. But some of the problems that we are facing in the Western world right now are that serious and are not being dealt with, especially here in the UK. In America, they are being dealt with now. But here in the UK, and I suppose because they're being dealt with, they're now trying to take people like Charlie out as a way of revenge because their side or who they believed in, the Republican Party, took office. Who's next then? Ben Shapiro? Donald Trump? Does this mean now everybody who believes in the same views, because I believe the same thing that Charlie believed in, traditional values, conservatism, the family, the nuclear family, that is, the mum, the dad, and children in the house. The same values, and the religion being Christianity, and the West having to stick with that. Freedom of speech, to say what you want, how you want to, regardless if it offends anyone or not. Those beliefs are what many of our ancestors fought, bled, and died for. And it's what makes us here in the West unique. It's what makes us different to countries that you see in the Middle East and other places like North Africa, where all you see is savagery, bloodshed, annihilation, torture, chaos. Whereas here we have the beauty and the freedoms to express who we are and speak about topics that we wish to speak about. Not so much in the UK anymore, but we are trying to address that, and we will win the battle on that. But does that mean that Nigel Farage or Adam Brooks or Patrick Christie or Ben Habib or Tommy Robinson should have the same treatment that Charlie Kirk had today? What does it mean for the Saturday that's coming? Does it mean extra measures need to be put in place now for the freedom of speech event? It's worrying that we live in 2025 and a hero like Charlie Kirk, a father, a son, a husband, a man who possibly and potentially would have been a future president or vice president at the age of 31 years old, was politically assassinated by some sick, twisted individual who clearly has opposing views. It's wrong. It's disgusting. It's not us. It's not how we live here in the West. I'm going to unmute Turning Point. I believe the White House are going to be making a press conference. And as you've heard from Ben Shapiro, that all the flags across the whole of the United States will now be flying at half-mast, which is incredible. That just shows how much of a legend this man was and how loved he was. What an incredible individual. I am so sad. And I genuinely thought in the car on the way back from shopping that there was hope when I was told that he was still alive and they were taking him to hospital. I didn't, and even after praying, I genuinely did think he like Donald Trump would make it. But after seeing, if you've seen earlier in the video, I had my head down. I was actually looking at the footage, and I really do not advise you to watch the actual video that is circulating online right now because it is very distressing. The one I had was at least censored, but the one I just been sent and that I've had is very yeah. Let's continue with the coverage from Daily Wire from Ben Shapiro, and we'll wait for the press conference to begin. Hopefully that will, and I know within no doubt that will be led by Donald Trump himself.
Developments as the police presumably find whoever committed this horrendous act of evil. And let's all say a prayer for Charlie's family tonight. And remember Charlie for what he was, a truly great man, and more importantly, a truly good person. We'll see you tomorrow, and stay tuned for more.
Okay. So I don't know whether they'll be coming back, or Ben Shapiro. I thought they were going to wait for the press conference. obviously not. So maybe we'll have to wait for that. I'll have to set up an alert for that then. Let's go to, oh, that is the Daily Wire, so they've already stopped. Let's have a look at some of Charlie Kirk's best moments and best comebacks. So if you didn't know who Charlie was, you get an idea of how, and I can have a little reminder of to keep him alive and to keep his arguments alive, because they'll forever be on social media. And you know, hopefully everyone will have access for the foreseeable to be able to use and listen to Charlie and use the same arguments he had to debate people. But let's look at some of the footage that Charlie has been most famous for over the years.
2-3 years ago. Oh my God. And then we had all 50 states plus 18 countries.
Let me tell you, it is not an argument in your favor that we're a racist country because blacks decide to start burning down Wendy's and stealing stuff. That's called criminality.
Actually, it is. Yeah, black people were burning it down. Why? Racism. Racism was a big issue, and we can pretend that it's not a big issue, but hey, if you don't want to, then that's just called being obtuse. And that's why I asked you, why did you have such a big problem with talking about racism? So
let me give you some examples of racism that could be proven. How about affirmative action at this college that discriminates against Asian students and white students? How about affirmative action hiring practices in the federal government? We are such a decent, non-racist country. The best example that he has is to show that he was mistreated. And if he acted like this at the DeSantis event, I can see why he was kicked out of the DeSantis event.
Flag outside of somebody's house, I just automatically assume you racist.
Almost definitely, but we felt that way for years. Like, I'm 51, and even as a kid, we knew. It was understood. If there was an American flag at their house, they some racist ass white mother. That's just what it was.
They say the same about our flag.
It's funny to see that they're saying it now, and it's like it's kind of new, but no. Yeah, been thinking about that, thought that forever.
Well, then leave the country, but they won't, because America is such a great country that even those who say they hate it refuse to leave.
So, Charlie, I don't know if you knew from the everywhere around everything all the time, but this month is in fact Pride Month. Which, what did you tweet the other day?
Pride is a sin.
So we're going to look at some companies and see what they have done to put themselves on the woke map in terms of Pride Month. First one here is Monopoly.
Go woke, go broke.
This, I feel like, is kind of lazy. I don't think they actually put too much effort in it. They just look.
It doesn't look any different.
Well, they just took some of the properties and like organized them in a rainbow-esque way.
Oh, I mean, this is pretty weak. I mean, if you're trying to actually pay tribute to the holy relic of Pride Month, there's no like reaccommodation. Where's the trans flag in that? That's so like 2009 Pride style. Well, by the way, how many letters are we at?
I think we're at 17 now.
No, I think it is LGBTQIA+, right?
There's a 2 in there somewhere for Two-Spirit.
No, is it really?
You know, we all live on the same planet. Borders are made up, man. The planet's dying.
Okay, so great question. Why do borders matter? Because borders are a distinction and a physical delineation of when good ideas start and bad ideas start. For example,
are you saying the United States is the good side and the other side?
Without a doubt, our laws are much more moral than the laws in Mexico, without a shadow of a doubt. We have due process, we have cross-examination of witnesses, we have the rule of law. You know what happens when you illegally immigrate to Mexico? You get deported back to your home country. Why don't we do the same? Secondly, if the walls don't work, why does Mexico have a wall on their southern border with Guatemala? You protect your own country because you care about your citizens, not because you hate the people on the outside. I think the government has a moral obligation to protect innocent life when confronted with the question of someone intervening to end that life.
I think there's a bit of a difference, and the analogy that I usually use, or the question that I usually ask pro-life people, is Do you believe that the government should mandate organ donation? We say that you shouldn't have to donate your organs, but the pro-life case seems to extend to the idea that even people who are living should have to give up their kidneys to people in hospitals, maybe?
I don't quite see it that way. Well, first of all, again, in 99.67% of the cases, the woman made a choice that could potentially...
And what about those 0.4%? What do you think should happen then?
Oh, I think the baby should be delivered. Doing something wrong after something evil is never the right thing. So, I mean, when it comes to mandating organ donations, I don't even see how that's applicable to the question. Because in 99.6% of the cases, the mother made a choice to be able to get pregnant.
So, like, there's actually a statistics or a study done that suggests that climate-related disasters are 8 times more likely than in 1980s.
Well, hold on a second. You know that we have less people dying because of quote-unquote climate-related disasters thanks to fossil fuels? We have less people dying because of extreme exposure to cold, hurricanes, because of the advancements we have thanks to fossil fuels. You know, this idea, it's very interesting in modern society. We take for granted the idea of having widespread shelter, heating or air conditioning in extreme climates, thanks to hydrocarbons, we take for granted. That used to be a leading cause of death of human beings up until 1850s.
When I grow up, I want to work for a woke company, like super woke. When I grow up, I want to be hired based on what I look like rather than my skills. I want to be judged by my political beliefs. I want to get promoted based on my chromosomes. When I grow up, I want to be offended by my coworkers and walk around the office on eggshells and have my words policed by HR. Words like grandfather, peanut gallery, long time no see, no can do. When I grow up, I want to be obsessed with emotional safety and do workplace sensitivity training all day long. When I grow up, I want to climb the corporate ladder.
Just by following the crowd.
I want to be a conformist. I want to weaponize my pronouns. What are pronouns?
That is exactly how we beat the woke, by mocking them. And just for the record, for the first 15 seconds, I couldn't tell if it was a parody or not. That's how you know it's good stuff.
People don't go out saying, guess what? I'm trans.
Yeah, they do.
They just kind of exist. They do. That's Twitter. That's Twitter. I can guarantee you.
And TikTok and most campuses. People say they're trans all the time. If the change is not part of their identity, then why do they call themselves trans?
Well, I mean, it's just
No one needs
a
to
title.
know.
Everybody, like, our society is more, we want titles for just about everything.
I agree. So I don't accept the title, and I should have a right not to accept it.
Well, everybody has a right to be respected. They haven't done any wrong to
No,
you.
you don't have a right to be respected. You have a right to speak. You have to earn respect. Abortion was legal in this country for 40 years.
And crime dropped
Thankfully
40% after it went.
Wait, hold on. Do you think abortion lowers crime rates?
Crime dropped 40% after abortion became legal.
Why is that the case?
It's called a statistic.
Who has the most abortions in America?
Women.
Black people. Is that so? Are you trying to say the termination of blacks in the womb lowers crime? That's a very racist.
Someone who's
He's
young
turned it on
and
her.
just started dating, what is your advice in dating and pursuing marriage as a Christian?
I recommend saving yourself for marriage. Okay? And I'm not here to shame you if you've made a different decision or if you disagree, but you're going to live a better life if you do that. And women have a lot more negotiating power than I think you realize in that situation. You might say, well, none of the men will date me. Well, you're dating the wrong men. Okay? Let me be very honest. And I do recommend, though, there's a real thing that you will hear, is that if you put off dating seriously for the intent of marrying, dating is not a vocation, it's not a hobby, it's not to use time. Dating must lead towards something. So you must date with the intent to marry. So you should not even open yourself up into the dating pool, period, if you can't potentially see, at least at the criteria beginning, spending the rest of your life with that person. Soviet example was so great. Why were people fleeing the Soviet Union for Western democracies, and they weren't fleeing Western democracies for the Soviet Union?
Yeah, I don't defend this generation of the Soviet Union. As explained before, the Lenin atrocity, they pointed out that the revolution was international. that it was contained within a single nation.
It wasn't contained. You tried it in Afghanistan. You tried it in Ukraine. You tried it in Lithuania. You tried it in Latvia. You tried it in Zimbabwe. You tried it in Cuba. You tried it in Central America. You tried it all throughout the... What are you talking about? You tried it on the Korean Peninsula. You tried it in Kyrgyzstan. You tried it in Pakistan. You tried it in China. You tried it in Vietnam. You tried it in Laos. You tried it in Cambodia. You tried it in Indochina. What do you mean contained?
Encyclopedia of knowledge.
This is propaganda. What are you gonna do? Like,
This is a professor.
Is that what you're gonna do next?
I mean, no, we're talking about abortion.
This is bullshit. This is violent. You're triggering my students.
Super polite,
You're
ferocious,
not. You can't even
cool.
have babies. So you don't even know what that is. You don't even know what this is. Get this out of here. Away from my door. Get the away from my door.
Let's get out of here.
Always the violent
You can't do
ones.
that.
The left.
Okay, so this professor should be held accountable for property destruction and then should be obviously fired and terminated. But more importantly, while you're terrorizing pro-life students, I've said it once, I'll say it again. College is a scam. For all your parents out there, when you send your kids to college, you are paying and in times going into debt so maniacs like her can indoctrinate your kids.
Do you believe in the First Amendment and freedom of speech? Just because it's critical to the next question.
Well, it's probably leading the questioner, but you bring it on. Yeah, I believe in the First Amendment.
Okay. The second question is, do you believe CRT should be banned in states? Obviously, banning speech is a very risky thing to do.
I know exactly where your question's coming from. Do you think we should teach eugenics in schools?
No.
Okay, so that would be banning speech, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so bad ideas should be banned and not taught to kids.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Argument 1. Stream will start shortly. So, I believe Daily Wire are going to be always
enemies is that in everything Charlie did.
Oh no, this was from earlier. So we don't actually, unfortunately, we don't actually have anything left in regards to the press conference, I don't believe. I'll just have a quick look to see if there is. Bear with me. I'm just checking now. Just to see if there's a press conference. I mean, it's in the top search suggestion on YouTube. It's wow. It's just even when I typed in Donald Trump, the only thing that would come up was Charlie Kirk. In fact, I've just looked at his YouTube channel, and he has actually got more subscribers now, which is wow. So even though he has sadly passed away, it's growing. It's growing. We've got a couple of other people who I actually know speaking about the same issue. David Wood. We can go to them and see what they are saying. So yeah, the critics are they're celebrating, which is absolutely disgusting.
The shot rang out just as Kirk answered a question from an audience member about mass shootings committed by transgender people. Disturbing viral video circulating online shows thousands of spectators running in panic. The shooter is believed to have fired at Kirk from a building about 200 yards away, Fox News reported.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that's still correct. And I'm just saying because they originally thought they caught someone and then they said, no, that's the wrong guy. So I don't know if that was the guy who was 200 yards away and that was just totally mistaken, or if it was 200 yards away, but at first they thought they detained the wrong guy or something like that. But anyway, yeah, so it's very difficult right after some of this happens to get any accurate information, and information quite frequently changes by the next day after people have sifted through all the footage and they've figured out who it is and released more details. And did the person like have a manifesto or something like that? All that usually comes out. The more reliable information usually comes out like the next day.
I mean, Kash Patel, the FBI director, did tweet that they have the suspect in custody. I don't know if it was that older guy. Maybe they.
I believe it was.
I mean, it could. Here's my thinking. I mean, I'm brainstorming here. Maybe it was the older guy, and they didn't want people to attack him as they were arresting him, so they said it's not him. And maybe it really was. Just like, hey, we're trying to take him to justice. Maybe it was someone else, and they also caught him. So either way, the FBI is reporting that they do have some suspect in custody.
The MAGA conservative influencer and CEO of Turning Point USA rose to prominence on YouTube and on X and became famous for his unapologetic and often boldly stated conservative opinions.
So that's Charlie Kirk, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Not saying you'd agree with everything he said, but I mean, like, to want him dead, I can't think of one like person I disagree with politically that I would, I just wish someone would take them out. Like, I can't, like,
it's just wrong.
I'm trying to think of like people that I had fleeting thoughts. Yes, because I'm human, but like, I don't actually want that. Like, this is insane. This is what people are doing because they disagree about politics. And by the way, we're not living in like Nepal. We're not living in South Sudan. We're living in the richest country in the world. We have, like, if you're a MAGA Republican, was your life so bad during the Obama years that you wanted to go pick a gun up and go assassinate someone? No. We still have benefits. We still have modern housing and technology. We're still living better than 99.9% of the people on the planet. Just because the political winds shift and move left and right, that does not mean you need to pick up violence. How spoiled are you? How self-centered are you and insecure you are that you think you need to go kill a political activist on the other side for saying things you don't want to hear? And then for the leftists celebrating this, you're like, you people have no humanity left.
They literally don't.
I could not imagine celebrating if this had happened to like.
They're absolutely evil. The left is honestly the mental decay of those people. It's unfathomable. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you ever so much for tuning in, those who have tuned in, and I hope the sound quality was okay. Obviously, it's the first time I've actually managed to use this. I didn't know that yesterday when I did a live stream, and just a test. So that's maximum gain, and this is low gain. So I just want to, and this is like in the middle, so I want to see what that sounds like when I look back on the video at the end. But I'm gonna leave it there, guys. This candle is for Charlie, and I'm gonna keep that going until it goes out itself, and I shall place that in my prayer corner, which is full of pictures of the saints, my icons, and if you don't know what they are, I'm an Eastern Orthodox Christian, so we have usually what they call a prayer corner, and in that prayer corner you'll have icons of the saints or Jesus or Mary, the Blessed Virgin, and you'll have on the table books. So you'll have the Bible and you'll have a prayer book and some other bits and bobs that usually people put there. It's just a tradition. So I'm going to go and place that candle in my prayer corner and dedicate the candle to Charlie Kirk, because these candles I only get once a year at Pascha, which is also known as Easter, or Pascha. I don't know how to say it's the Greek term of it, but yeah. So I lit that for him and his family, and like I said, I'm just gobsmacked. It's that we're at an age or at a time now where just having the opposing views could make you lose your life. And not only that, of course, because it was Charlie Kirk, someone who I really did truly admire and would have loved to have met. Really would. It's a sad day. Not just for America, but for all across the world. And I have no doubt whatsoever, as a Christian, that Charlie is now in heaven, starting his eternal life. And I pray that the violence, the political violence between both sides ceases and doesn't continue, and that we do not see a similar event like this, or any kind of revenge, or any kind of further disturbance for simply having opposing views. Yes, as a society, we are divided here in the UK, and as well in the US and in the West, and all over the world. People have their own opinions, their own beliefs, and we're entitled to them. But we all must remember that we're all human. We all bleed the same red blood. And we all share. We share this planet that we call Earth and that we call home. And we need to look at ourselves sometimes when we're angry and we're frustrated, and we really do get annoyed with those who we do not agree with. And sometimes take ourselves out for a few minutes and acknowledge that it's actually okay for people to have different views. It's okay. What's not okay is to then use violence or take someone's life because they have opposing views. It's something I don't want to see become a trend. And it's certainly most something I don't want to see people celebrate. And those who are celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk, then all I can say is good luck. Good luck for when you pass, for you will be remembered for laughing. Because it's people like that that is the sole reason hell was created for. For people like those. And I hope that those who have laughed and mocked the death of Charlie Kirk, eventually seek forgiveness and realize that actually what they are saying and doing is wrong, even if it's for show. It's wrong. America, on both sides of the political spectrum, lost a man today. A man who was just like any other man, had a family, was once a baby, and deserved the chance to live his full life out without any interference, regardless of what he believed, what he said, or what he had done. There are worse people in America walking the streets right now than the likes of Charlie Kirk, or people who believe in the same things that he does. So instead of, just think how many predators and arpists there are out there that you could have gone and had a fight with, or gone and emptied that anger you had built up. But instead pulled the trigger on a successful person. Someone who will always be remembered. And I hope and I pray that people with bravery and in their courage will remain to speak up and speak boldly and speak loudly about, and passionately, like Charlie did, about what they believe in. Stand up for what is right and stand against what is wrong with pure conviction, without fear. Because Ben Shapiro was saying on a certain point that obviously he believes that there should no longer be outdoor events. We shouldn't have to fear because of this, because otherwise we'll let those win. But middle ground does need to be found. And the problems that we're facing do need discussing. This is what happens when you don't discuss and when you don't debate issues. And that's what Charlie was. He was a debater. That man easily could have found middle ground with Charlie at some point if he wanted to, and had given the chance. Maybe he would have had a good conversation and realized this guy is just a human just as much as I am. And they probably would have found they had a lot more in common than they did. Well, they had a lot more in common than they didn't, if that makes sense. There's loads of people who I know, and in fact I have friends, family even, that are on the political left. And we have more in common with each other than our political beliefs or our religious beliefs. A lot more in common. Whether it's the football teams we support, the food that we enjoy, comedians or films that we like, music that we listen to. There are so many things that we can actually look to bring us together rather than to separate us. And on that note, I will leave you guys, and I'll be again live soon. But for right now, my thoughts and my prayers are with Charlie, his family, and those affected by today's events. God bless you all. God bless America. And God bless the United Kingdom. Take care, guys. God bless.